So thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here. I really thank you, Nico, because it's an honor for me to be in such an important university. And usually I get some invitation and usually they ask me for 5 minutes presentation, 2 minutes presentation. So today I have some time and I really thank you also for the time that you asked me to talk about. And I'll go if I can. I decided to change a bit on the title and specifically thinking on the relation between nature and city and nature in city. And thank you, Marco, for your presentation. I think I've seen many of the topics that you took into consideration, and I really hope to make also some contribution with mine. It's also black and white. I see your point now. Mine was also white. So some small premises. This research by Weizmann Institute told us that in 2020, the anthropogenic mass has balanced the weight, what we produce over the century. And in 2020, we as human have been designed, built an anthropogenic mass which is equal to the biomass. First time in history, I think. It tells us how strong we are changing our planet. And of course, this is not going to reverse unless we are reversing our culture, our actions. So we will, the biomass and the anthropogenic mass will move one way to the other, and we will overwhelm this situation. And on the other side, we know that we have the Earth Overshoot Day. Last year was June 28, only because COVID postponed it a bit. Otherwise, usually it's between May, June. So half of our year we have a depth on our planet. And these are some of the images by Burtynsky that show us that it's not just a city and countryside, nature against non-nature or anthropogenic situation. We are taming the whole planet to, and we are changing the landscape. We are building, we are really impacting overall. So we don't really know what is a natural environment. Is this a natural environment? Is this non-nature? So it's a very, very complex, unknown condition. And we just turned 8 billion a few days ago, just because it was on the news everywhere. I just thought that that was something to bring back into consideration. So I don't want today to, in the premises, to talk about mitigation or adaptation, because it's something that we are debating very much. These are the premises for me to consider on what we are changing as humans, and how complex is the situation for us as planner, as institution, as researchers. So because of that, there are very, very different answers to what it is due. So we know that the European Union is working on promoting, and Nico, I think that you really well explained how Europe is working very much on promoting all the kind of solution, at least to reducing the net greenhouse gas emission. We have challenges ahead, and there are 100 cities which are working towards being climate neutral by 2030. We have a number of networks, institutions, organizations, such as Cities for Forest. This one you may know is also referring to Wangari Maathai, the Premio Nobel Nobel Prize, sorry, I was telling in Italian, on protecting trees. We have cities with nature. We have, and now you see, we are I'm trying to overwhelm you with the incredible amount of very good practices, very good institution. This is the call for action that was launched by FAO at the first World Forum on Urban Forest with the 3 cities of the world, with some rule to be applied in order to be part of this call to action, also sponsored by the Arbor Day Foundation. And if it's not enough, we have very specific networks. I bring this one, C40s, which is a very relevant network, which brings a city to talk to each other in order to exchange information, particularly on climate change. And then the city themselves, they're working very much on changing the idea, on changing policies, on implementing new strategies in order to promote integration. I bring this one, for instance, is on London, of course. The idea of having a city as a national park, a complex city such as London, which is not a small city, and to reverse the idea that nature and city cannot coexist, but they are in the same sphere, so they need to work a better strategy. Or Paris, which is working very much on what I think Marco also brought to the point of view by considering very urbanized space, such as parterre or green roofs. They have this, I think that the most interesting part is that they devoted some guidelines in the website, in which you start and see the complex issue of retrofitting the building. So how does it work? How is it possible? Which is the finance that you need? Which is the technical expertise that you need? Because you need to have this kind of information to spur the interest, to make, to create the expectation, to provide the knowledge to do this kind of change. And what happens in Italy? Because I'm from Italy, we are part of the above mentioned. We have 9 cities working on these call, climate neutral and smart city. Milan, which I come from, is part of it. We have been, so this says, it's just approved the decree for the urban forestry. So we have 2 years in which the national government provides fund to spur projects on urban forestry in 14 metropolitan areas, which are the biggest urban areas in Milan. And then the Minister of Ecological Transition, we just changed the government, so it's also changed the ministry, the name of the ministry. So this is the past one. They provided money through the Next Generation EU plan to have 330 million euros to plant trees in urban areas. And then we have projects on incrementing green infrastructure and nature-based solutions to city. This is Milan. This is a urban innovation action project. So it is a project that, for instance, the European Union is promoting on a nature-based solution. And this project is called Prato Urban Jungle. Prato is grass, but also is a city. In this case, is a city to promote renaturalization of a neighborhood within the city as an urban jungle. And then we have the first prototype of this Bosco Verticale, a green building. It is in place since 2014. Now the project has other prototypes in social housing in the Netherlands, for instance. What it interested me on this project is that it became per se the idea of how to implement. So you may like it or not, but in the end, nobody, a lot of people do not even know that is in Milan. A lot of people do not know which is the architects that have made this project. But this project has become a symbol of how green buildings is not the only one. It is one of the symbols of another way of reconsidering the integration of nature within buildings. So I just brought 3 examples. The World Economic Forum used in first page. UN Habitat is using on the cover of World Cities reports. And the Sustainable Development Goals, the 11th goal is represented by this building. You see, it's never said who's the designer. It's not anymore a part of it. It's the discussion about how green building needs to be in the city. Say that, I decided to bring on a project which I'm working on since 3 years. So it's a kind of a child. And it's not the project per se that I want to discuss with you today, but it's the complexity of bringing nature in our city that I want to highlight with this project. So the project is called Forestami. It's 3 million new trees to increment the natural capital of the metropolitan area of Milan. Don't worry, the slides are in English, only the title, which was in Italian. So the mission is to plant 3 million new trees by 2030 within the metropolitan area of Milan. There was other written words, but it's black and white, we cannot see, so I'm going on. So for this project, we started and we tried to understand which are the priorities in a city and a city system such as the metropolitan area of Milan. 133 municipalities. This is the area. So the first issue entails the permeable and impermeable surfaces, which is not exactly saying where you can act or non-act, but it shows immediately the dimension on how, where are the areas in which you really need to make a new change to the seal, and which are the area that only are permeable, but it doesn't mean that they are available. So it provides already an idea of the complexity of the territories. And then the temperature. So I just connect to what Marco has shown. This is a a day in August and shows how strong the differences are. We also had the night, so I don't have it here, but the night is also striking. So you see how strong is the Herbinite island effect, particularly in impermeable surfaces. So the known transition between day and night in the changing of temperatures. And the potential runoff, which is of course very much in relation to the permeable and impermeable surfaces, or how the city can or cannot absorb. And then we estimated the existing tree canopy cover. So this map shows all the trees, the canopy, not the trees, but the canopy of the trees. So the trees which are alive, that are well, they're big, which contribute to the tree canopy. And also shows the public and the private trees, because this is only a map that shows not the public buildings, but trees, but all the trees. So if there is some very good private person planting a lot of trees, this map shows. And this has been done through open source, because one of the issues that it's very relevant to, particularly to small municipalities, is that you can replicate this kind of information with small money in order to continue, because you need to do the estimate. We did the estimate at the outset of the project, and we want to redo this. And so that was a very relevant point with us. Then we try to understand which is the potential. Sorry, is this also black and white? You may interpret it. So on the right-hand side, we started with the urban forestry typology that FAO provided in 2016 by saying that the typologies are urban and peri-urban forest and wood, small parks, tree-lined avenues and small squares, other tree-lined avenue, lined spaces, green buildings. But then we try to understand which can be the focus in terms of land use area, in terms of understanding which is the specific areas that need to be considered in order to study the change, and then the areas of interest, which are even more specific. This transition is particularly relevant to us. It's also in terms of discussion. When we go to municipality and we say, I just told that to Nico, do we have space for urban forestry? The answer is no. When you say, but you may need to have, maybe you have a cycle path, or you have a green space with no trees, that you would be interested to work with us and plant trees, and that the answer is yes. So the transition among the idea of what is urban forestry, and in Italy, but I think it's also elsewhere, the term forestry is still on debate, provokes issues such as safety, dark. So it needs to be accompanied with a lot of cultural ideas, what is important on these kind of words. And then we mapped these land use and potential into first a map, and then we made it interactive and online for two reasons. The first one is when you have this kind of claim, 3 million trees, the question can be where, but also to have this kind of map which shows, so we know which are the area that in terms of dimension can host more trees. So it provides a better understanding on the policies that can be directed. So it's a more agricultural field, it's more abandoned area, it's more the green infrastructure, the blue infrastructure. So you have different percentage in relation to that. And also it provides online the idea that areas can change. So it's kind of twofold. So if you go online, you can go to your place, and then you can go click and see how many trees that the nearby area can host. And that is so relevant to us because then it can spur the interest from the citizen part. We have priority, we have potential, but if we don't have the actual available space where to plant, we cannot do anything. So when we started, okay, it's again black and white. We have 20 municipalities in 2021. That was in the slide. We signed memorandum of understanding. So we have 133 municipalities. It's a voluntary agreement. So the municipalities are not obliged to work with us. They call us, they say we are interested in the program. We sit, we discuss with the municipality on what is the at the planning point of view, what they are doing, if they are changing the plan, if they need to do urban transformation, what is in their willingness. And then we start this discussion. At the end of this process, they go to the municipality, they pass this act within their municipal Consiglio Municipale, which is the public system in which they say we are interested in it. So they provide a specific commitment to us and to their citizens. And then we have a number of available areas for each of the municipalities. Of course, this is a long-standing discussion because they can add every year new areas by considering the different requests. So it was a kind of, sorry, you cannot see, but it's growing. So that is the sense. So you see the dark green is the number of cities, small municipalities that have been entailed in this process. And after 4 years, now we have signed 62 memorandum of understanding with these cities. So we have a huge number of areas that now we can plant. We cannot do anything if we do not, so this is the maps that we have on the website to show to everybody which is to all the people which are interested to see why we are doing this. So we have this kind of map to show why it is important, and the potential map of the potential. We have campaigns to show that we are doing this project. We have an advertising campaign that explains the benefits of urban forestry, why it is so relevant. We have this school for Estamil, which is on environmental education with kids of different years. We have been provided, so that was a testing. We had 2,500 small trees. We asked citizens to be like temporary custodians of trees for 8 months to show them which is that trees are alive. They are from different species. So it's not just green, it's a platanus, it was a cherry tree, and so on. There were 8 species. And to know about the project. In 2 days, they were gone, everybody wanted to have more and more and more. I mean, of course, 2,500, it's a very small number, but it gives the sense of how many people are interested in this kind of project. And we had a person, an agronomist, which was available to answer the possible questions on the trees. We got 1,600 emails. So this person received 1,600 emails. My tree is bad. It's a bit bad. And they were bringing pictures, asking what to do. Did I water it too much? Did I water too small? What shall I do? Oh, it's dead. So it's very, very long discussion on these 2,500 trees, which is something very, very interesting to us. And then we plant in different parts. And then the last part is a kind of a reflection that I want to open up with you. Wow, I still have a lot of time. I'm so happy. I'm always stressed. Wow. So planting together with a strategy. So one of the thing that interested me in this project, that it started with a claim, 3 million trees, but then it became more and more a process of coordinating. That on the right-hand side, it was forestry, and then some of the networks that we are working with. So we are working, there is a national project on biodiversity with the funds of the PNRR on biodiversity. So forestry is exchanging very much on this network of knowledge. The other project is the one that provides the money, the one that I was mentioning at the beginning, 330,000 euro on urban forestry. European projects, which are sometimes we are leading the project, and sometimes we are just exchanging informations with these groups and people. So we are kind of part of the different networks in order to exchange. We realized, so the project that you see, we realized 33 interventions since 2021. 8 are already in place until December. We planted in 2 years only with money from donations, 80,000 trees. And the money comes from companies and from crowdfunding. But we were also able to secure 9 projects from the National Fund, Bando Costa. And that was because we were already collaborating. So universities, so us as leading as Politecnico, but also with other universities. So the network was already, when the funds and the money came in, we were already working. So there was no discussion on who was doing this and why. So we were so happy that we got the chance to work together with the public funds. That was a very easy topic. In fact, Milan on this call secured 9 projects, and it was among the 14 metropolitan areas, the one who were able to secure the most. For us, it was a fruitful collaboration, but that was because we were already working together. The other thing that we are doing is to build on a database, something. So one of the biggest issues is that we have 133 municipalities. That means that most of the time, one municipality doesn't exactly know what the other is doing. Although we have a metropolitan area working on that, on specific topics such as the environment, there is not strong coordination among the municipalities. What we are doing is, because we are talking with the different municipalities, we are building on a database. And then what we try to do is to, when we plant the trees, when we do intervention, we put all this information on the database once the projects are done. in order not to lose the information. So we know exactly where the trees are, which kind of species are there. And then we know, for instance, that this summer we had a very, very bad drought. We know how many trees were dead. We know how many watering were done. So we know exactly we know the situation before the plantation. So this is a lot of information that we have, and it is available to also, so for us, it's architect, urban planner, landscape architect, but this platform means that we can share the knowledge to botanists, to ecologists, to other experts, which can understand urban forester, that can understand hydrologists. I mean, that can understand better why some situations are occurring. And then we provide most of the information to online to show exactly what the impact. So when one of the issues with projects such as this one is that it's very, very hard to pass from a claim, which is 3 million trees, which is wide, to a very specific area of intervention. We are working on this subject, but it's an important point of view for us to show which kind of project we are doing, which is the situation and where the projects are. And we are doing it with a lot of institutions. So on the right-hand side, we have the scientific committee. On the left-hand side, we have a technical committee, which is the committee which is helping us on the choice of the plants, on the plantation project, on the maintenance, because we, along with the plantation, we are doing a 5 years maintenance. And then we have with us the social cooperatives, which are planting the trees and maintaining the trees. We are hoping to involve more and more people. And the thing is that with this we of course involve and include population. So when we do plantation campaigns, where we open it up to everybody who wants to do it. And the important thing for me is that in the end, these projects really hopes to go beyond the political vision of one municipality, or it is in the end, that's why I was putting on the slide planting with a strategy, so that the idea that we need this kind of project needs to be sustained by many stakeholders, actors, which are not coming from the academia, the institutions, the association, but it's a kind of a call to be jointly, and it takes a lot of time, because in the end, to arrive to this kind of point, we really had to discuss, to convince. We still have a lot of discussion. This summer we lost trees. It was a disaster for us, because the kind of death was 25%. Out, usually it's 10%, 10, 15. And we are doing a recovery plan and so on, but to make people understand that having a drought such as the one that we had this year, it was something that we had to discuss. We are still discussing. So it's and it's passionate, of course. We are trying to discuss and to have people on board from very different perspectives. And I think that these complexity that I was mentioning at the beginning, it's it asks for a different change of perspective, where it's not one or the other, but it's only by the complexion and the a kind of togetherness in which very, very different backgrounds are only working together. And when I started this project, I didn't know anything about trees and shrubs. Now I know a bit more. I better understand some of the things, but the good thing is that I work very much with people coming from very, very, very different subjects from the one that I studied on. And it's only through this perspective that we can answer to questions that alone I cannot, and together we can. And this is the way I really hope we can measure ourselves in the future. Thank you so much.
Hey. Questions? You talked about strategies, and I believe for a lot of cities, the Bosco Verticale is one of the strategies. No, instead of building forests, they try to build buildings with a lot of trees on it. So I'm very curious if you know who is maintaining the trees on the Bosco Verticale, and what is the quality of the biodiversity in the trees, around the trees, and how is it developing during the last few years?
So I happen to know the answer. The maintenance of the Bosco Verticale and also other projects that are around is central. So there is a maintenance which is done by, let's say, the condominium, which is subcontracting expert on that. Particularly, the pruning is done by tree climbers, which are going down from the facade and cutting on the branches. So that is the answer is very specific, and it's the central building. The biodiversity, there are a lot of species of trees and shrubs. I don't remember now the number, specific number, but the mix of the trees and shrubs in the facades are different, because they are also depending on the height of the building, where some species are not going higher than a certain level, and also to the exposition of the sun. So trees and shrubs which are in the south facade are not the same in the northern facade, and that's why it's changing through how the seasons, and changing if you are going there. It's every time you go there, it's completely different. Because it's the season. So now if you go there, it's a bit sad, because the trees are losing the leaves. And then it's, of course, completely different situation in spring. At some point, they had a lot of coccinelle, the small insects coming in. So it's, and there are a lot. What's the
Ladybirds.
Ladybirds coming in, and they had nesting of different birds throughout the trees. This summer, they also, I mean, in Milan it was a disaster, as well as in Italy. Long established tree in parks, they died, and they also had some phalanxes in the Bosco Verticale, and now they are replacing it. So it's ever-changing kind of building, and that was the first prototype. There is a project in Utrecht, in Eindhoven, on new kind of prototypes of Bosco Verticale, and one is on precast concrete in social housing. So the idea is to apply the same kind of idea to different kind of typologies of building, and trying to the different perspective, and also to the different climate. So the trees are completely different. The trees and shrub coming from the northern part of Europe.
I have a question, very practical, on how does the amount of trees, 3 million trees, where does it come from? Why? Huh? And then where do the trees come from? And what would you say would be the largest gain of the project?
3 million trees, it's we have two answers. So 3 million trees, it's the population of the metropolitan area. So 1 tree for each inhabitant, which also is a net gaining in tree canopy cover estimate of 5%. So we're passing from 16 to 21. We have been looking at the number of cities which have let's say a good tree canopy cover. We know that Cecil is saying 30%. 30% is very far from us. We should plant like 20 million trees. So we couldn't really make it. But we pass above the 20%, which is a minimum. We know that also the European Union is asking, so the discussion was to have greening plans and to increment 5% on tree canopy. So that is a kind of work. The trees are coming mainly, so one of the partners is ERSAF, which is the regional entity for a forest. So we have him as a partner, and they do certified forests from certified seedlings. So since the starting of the project, they are planting the seeds for us. So to maintain this kind of flow. Of course, that was before this booming of all the kind of trees. So the 330 million euro equals to 6 million trees nationwide. They made a huge change. So now at the national level, the Vivaism sector, which is tree nursery sector, is working very much to increment it's a national discussion on how to increment the plantation from seedlings. And the third question was which is the gain of the project. There are more. My feeling is that in the end, is the huge legacy is that we are able to work together. So that is my perspective, because that is the most difficult part, I guess. So to have the 3 public university to cooperate together, to have the municipality, the C3 metropolitan area, and the region in this project. They are from different political background, so left and right wings, but they're working together. So it's already a very good starting point. In the end, the environmental effects and the cultural effect is also something that we really look forward. But the specific impact we really need to measure in some time, because that is one of the biggest issue. When we plant small trees, the effects you cannot see in 1 year, 2 years. You really need to measure after a while. And like a lot of people is asking, how much CO2 the small trees absorb. Well, very small one, and so which is the real impact? We don't know. We can calculate some estimates, but we think that in 2026 we will go for a first round of new tree canopy cover and see if there is already something which is. Yes, for instance, having already the social cooperative working with us and also working with the schools, it's something that is changing already the idea. But the other good thing is that it's already 4 years that I'm working on this project, but it seems that we never started because we wanted to go and work with the school, with the universities, with the hospitals, with the social housing. So we have all the agricultural fields. So it's a kind of never ending project. So we really want to go even beyond 2030.
So thank you very much. So you stress, let's say, the importance of collaboration. So I guess it's like a transdisciplinary way of working. So not only different disciplines working together, but also involving as many stakeholders as you can. But the question is, is there a specific role for designers, urban designers, landscape architects in that kind of process? And if yes, what is the role? And what would be an advice to future generations in that regard?
So we have all the kind of disciplines and all the kind of stakeholders at the different tables. The leading research is anyway done by the Department of Architecture and Urban Planning. And so the research and what we do with the municipality is a discussion with the strategic planning, from the strategic planning point of view, and also all the area are designed as a landscape or an urban design project in terms of designing this area. We cannot do it without agronomists and arboriculturists, because in the end we also need to create an ecosystem. So we really need to have a complex mix, which also, for instance, increase the biodiversity and in the end reaches a complex ecosystem as in terms of species protection and complexity. I think that working, so a person working in this project, he told me, you know, I'm an arboriculturist. I work with trees, which is the most stupid job, because trees don't need us. But the good thing is that I enjoy working with them and they're also paying me. And that was fantastic, because the idea of having the relation, a so strong relation, and in having the chance to work with other people, working with nature, and working on projects that can change the future of our cities and have an impact. I think it's a very good process to start with.
Last question, because otherwise we run too small. We keep it small.
Yes.
Just to lead on from this question, Maria, if you think about, let's say, look at the planning, you showed an image of the potential, or where the cooling and the water and the ecology is needed. This is a kind of like a where we can plant trees approach. Have you other trees landing in the places they are needed the most?
We are planting the most. We are planting it in the northern part where there is more built up area. So the contribution that so when we do the prioritization, because we have more project than the money. So as as soon as we have money and we need to choose and prioritize the area, we prioritize the area also in relation to the to our priority list. So it's a kind of matching between where we need to plant in terms of priority, which is the kind of impact that you have on the specific area, and also from the administration point of view, not repeating two sites in the same municipality. So it's a complex way of also prioritizing, but the priority in terms of whether it's most urgent to do it, we cross it when we do prioritization. I keep it short because Nico told me to keep it short.
Thank you very much. My question is, what did you gain in terms of time and tree growth with planting these young trees and just maintaining the area and let plants come by themselves, tree comes by themselves in the long run? Now you have, of course, planted young trees, but if you do nothing, then trees will also enter. And what is the gain by this approach from the tree point of view?
So instead of planting big trees, then
No, nothing. Just let the seeds enter the area themselves.
Okay.
Did you
So
make a comparison between the natural development and this planting scheme?
that is
Because you're only planting 8 species. Is there room for spontaneous entering of species and things like that?
that is a very specific question. So I will try my best, but I'm not an expert in that. I promise. We plant small trees and not from seedlings because from what my understanding is my knowledge is very limited, but there are the issue is that the phalanxes of having seedlings putting into the soil and having them growth is that rodent attacks, vandalism is even, and then when you do the maintenance and they don't know where the trees are and all these things, where they just pass clean on the grass. So the expertise that is there, it's too small, so that you really need to know where the trees are, and also by making people understand that there is a plantation, so you provide information on the plantation. It's something very important. On the survival of the trees, I don't know if it's, so we never tested the seedling against small trees. That we never done. We already plant small one, and the phalanxes are all the kind. Not to mention the fact that if people do not know, so the people see a small trees and they don't like it because they want the tall one. Then we already have a problem because they're small. Then they lose the leaf because of many reasons. So they think they're dead. So they make a pause and say, "Oh, look, it's dead." Then we leave the grass to grow in order to protect the humidity in summer, and they make a pause and say, "Oh, you know that they're not maintaining." So it's all the kind of issues beyond that. So I'm telling you, it's a very fascinating subject on how people react to nature. And I loved your images from controlled nature, a bit of letting a bit more wild because of the biodiversity. That is very far, I guess, from our culture, and we really need to make it grow.
Okay. Thank you very much.